Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. The fence saga continues. Let me bring you up to date. We're going to take a little ride here. I've been doing a lot of work, and I'm going to show you. First, I got to go through this gate, though. Yeah, it's close enough. There we go. I've been all the way up this swale, first with the sickle bar mower, then with the weed eater. The fence is spotless now. I've been down all these lines between pastures, cleaned everything off the fence, checked all the posts. These guys are unhappy because the grass that they got in here is not exactly the best that they would like to eat. And of course, they want the best, but they're gonna have to wait. It's all spotless now. I weed eated all through here along the pig fence. All the way around, all the way down the line here. And for those who thought that weed eating would be quicker than using the sickle bar mower, it took me hours to go through this. It took me about a half hour to go up the swale with the sickle bar mower, and I got a 7-foot swath out of that. And even despite all that, every time I check the fence, it's exactly the same, 2,000 volts, which leads me to think that weeds on my fence aren't the problem, because no matter how many of them I clear, it doesn't make a bit of difference. I also went all the way around the pig's fence. I raised it where I needed to, where they'd push dirt into it. I cleared everything off of it. It is completely clear now. I went all around these fences with the weed eater, all down these fences, round here, went all the way around this field, nothing. So up until now, my solutions to the fence problem, in short, haven't been shocking. I've isolated sections of the fence. You know, I've dropped off sections to try and localize the problem. No change, nothing. The only other thing I can think of is going around walking and grabbing each post and seeing if I get a charge out of it to try and find out if there's a ground out somewhere. Other than that, I've checked it all over. Today's been a rainy day, and I got to cogitating about this problem, and I want to try something. As you can see, the fencer's behaving as usual. No blinky blink, except once in a great while. I think it's gotten worse. So let's try something here. I'm going to take the ground lead off, the wire that goes to the grounding posts outside the barn. Got a zap there. Now the fencer blinks every time. And if I go outside the barn, and I put my voltage tester on the pig fence here, you would think I should get nothing, right? Because I've disconnected half the circuit. The ground's disconnected from the fencer, but I'm getting about the same reading I did as when the ground was plugged in. So I think I have a ground problem. And it all clicks for me now, because I realize even when I had the fence perfectly cleaned off in the spring, I remembered I was getting low voltage readings then. I'd forgotten until I had this rainy day to think about it. And further, I remembered that when I put in the ground rods, the pig barn wasn't there, I built that later on. I ran the ground rods off of this corner of the barn and put at least 2 in. I think only 2. This fencer really needs 3, but I think I put in 2 because I had a smaller fencer. Well, the pigs have been rooting right around where the ground rods are, and also I did some modifications to their doorway last winter so that I could push moisture out of their pen, and I may have cut the ground wire. This little gal keeps getting out. Come on, in you go. I gotta do some work in here. Let's go. No, don't go in the pig barn. There you go. So I went to my local ag trek and I bought 3 8-foot ground rods, and I'm going to put them in. We're going to see if it makes a difference. I kind of think it will. And this time, instead of burying them outside where I can't see them, I'm going to run them in a diagonal out from inside the barn so that they're in contact with moist earth all the time. And I'm going to leave the top so I can see the wire connections, so I can make sure that they're still connected and clean up the connections as needed for maintenance. I gotta hit a rock here sooner or later. Pro tip, install the clamp before you finish driving the pole so that when the head mushrooms out from beating on it, you can still get the clamp over the bar. Now I'm into the rocks. The scrap metal's all got to go to the scrap yard. But I happen to have in here a roll of 9-gauge wire left over from another fencing project. And it'll make for a nice, thick, conductive ground wire. Dead end right on there. Yep. Just cut this to length. And then hook it onto this ground post. Like I said, this fencer's supposed to have 3 ground rods. I only installed 1, but we're going to give her a test and look at the voltage now. See if it changed. Dirt on the plug. Spiders. Still very few blinky blinks. And the tester says between 2 and 3,000 volts. That's about the same as what I had before, but I've only driven 1 ground rod. So next I'm going to come over here about 10 feet from where I drove the first ground rod, and I'm going to drive a second one. Just got to get this stuff out of the way. Where's John Henry when you need him? Oh, not here. Now I'm going to run another wire from the first ground to the second ground here. And I'm thinking with 2 rods, it should make a difference. All right, let's try her now. Huh. That's not what I expected. Let's check the voltage here again. It's higher. It's reading 4,000 volts now. Lighten up the 5 sometimes. But this is what I really don't understand. So the fencer's all hooked up. If I put the probe from the tester into the ground and then I connect it to the fencer's ground, I get a reading every blink of about 2,000 volts. It looks fainter than the main fence, but it doesn't seem like there should be current going through here unless it's returning from a ground in the fence to the fencer. That may be it. Maybe that's what I'm sensing here. Well, let's drive in the 3rd ground rod. And to do that, I'm going to have to move all these fence posts out of the way. Whoops. The whole thing mystifies me. Never had a problem like this. Oh, I must have hit a big rock. Holy cow. I think I've passed the point of no return though. Hooey. Oh, we'll try tilting her this way. What's that? It just doesn't make sense to me that I'm getting juice through the ground because the tester's plugged into the ground rod's plugged into the ground. The juice must be coming from the fencer. That doesn't make any sense. Unless I got a bad fencer. Huh. Well, we'll finish this job and see. Gosh darn it, I hit another rock. All right, the 3rd ground rod is in. I just need to run the wire, fish it behind these fence posts. secure it to this ground rod. Ground rod number 3. Secure the other end to ground rod number 2. When I was an architect and we did big buildings, there were huge grounding grids for the buildings, just a grid of rods, very big. And there was always a protocol for how you ran the wires, as far as having to double up the wires and have a continuous wire each, just for extra insurance that you didn't have a bad ground someplace along the line. But this is just an electric fence, so I just jumpered the lines one to the next instead of a continuous. And I guess this is the moment of truth. All 3 are connected. Yeah, I got something else going on here. Let's look at the voltage again. Same spot on the fence. It's up to 6,000 volts now. I just don't understand why there's juice coming through the ground. I'm going to take the tester out in the field next and we'll see what we're getting out from the fencer, not right next to it. This spot out here by the stock tank, remember when I tested it before, it was 2,000 volts. Let's see what it is now. 1,000 volts. That didn't help. I have removed so much vegetation off of the fences, fixed all the shorts that I could find, and it still hasn't improved the fence at all. So I don't think that's my problem. I think it's got to be inside the fencing unit itself, especially considering that charge I'm getting going to the ground rods. That's not right. Okay, so here's the deal. I just spent 20 minutes on the phone with the top fencing expert I would consider at Empire Fence. He's north of us a little ways. I bought the fencer from him. He knows everything there is to know about electric fences. What I have is called a dead short, and the reason I'm getting voltage back up through the ground wires is because the ground is actually, it's completing the circuit. So I've got voltage coming out of the red post, 3,000 volts. I've got it coming into the ground, back through the ground, up through the ground wire at 3,000 volts. That's why I'm getting the same voltage any place I measure in the circuit, because I've got a dead short. I can't find it. I've been all the way through the fence, some of it multiple times. So next step is I have a fault finder coming that I ordered a couple days ago, and I'm going to have to wait for that to come. And meanwhile, I'll keep looking for shorts, I guess. I've got shorts on too, so I guess I found one of my shorts, or a pair of my shorts anyway. Anyway, I'm going to keep looking until my fault finder comes. And the cows and the pigs are fine with 2,000 volts on the fence. They don't go far. The pigs, certainly they won't. They've touched the fence, they still squeal. So I thought I was going to solve it in this video, but this is real life, I guess. It's not a neat story. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. I'm learning something every day with this fence. I'll see you next time.